Welcome to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals experiencing some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing. Joining me here today, once again, is Ben Brayshaw and John Riders, planners and partners with Brayshaw Financial Group. How are you guys today?
Good morning, Seth.
Good morning. You're always taking my air.
I'm sorry, buddy. You go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi, Seth. How are you?
Hey, good. Is there enough room in
There's enough room in the studio for all of us. I think there is.
Hey, we're glad you're joining us today. We're going to have some fun talking about three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do. And gosh, what are we going to kick it off with today, guys? Are we going to head straight over and start doing some newsy things with money in the news?
We are, but just to give a brief little introduction to today's program, we're going to be talking about the 9 common money management mistakes that you're probably making, Seth. The 9 mistakes you're probably making. So that's
I just think it's the two of you making them.
Yeah.
Just the two of you.
Hey, simmer down there on the accusatory tone there, huh? So rest assured,
nice.
There are mistakes that a lot of people are making when it comes to their money. Hey, and I guess if we're going to be honest
John put
here,
the show together for us because he was able to craft these very quickly.
Yes, it was very quick, very quick. Came right from my personal experience. Now, hey, there's a lot of mistakes that people are making out there. We're making the same.
This sounds a lot like that prayer that you hear people do. It's like, how can I instruct John to be a better person? Help John to be nice to Susie, Lord.
Yeah.
How can I help Ben and Seth be better financial planners?
Yeah, that is definitely what we're going to do. But no, we're going to talk about some common mistakes that people make on a regular basis, and the things that we see when people come in our office and we're going through their situations and talking to them about their financial situation. We're really going to have some fun talking with that. But before we do that, it's time for Money in the News. So the first story we're going to talk about today is really about how times are changing, and they are changing. If you take a look at what's going on out there in the marketplace, and you take a look at what's going on in retail especially, just had a story here on June 3rd, 2018, Sears will be closing more stores in 2018. Sears Holdings said on Thursday that it will be closing more than 70 additional stores in 2018 as its sales continue to erode, dropping more than 30% in the last quarter from a year ago. And so what we're seeing here with the stock price is that it is going down. And hey, if you are living under a rock, then you don't know this, but it is, when you take a look about retail across the whole board, whether you're talking malls, you're talking locations where people are walking in, if it's not Amazon, it's dying. Now, it's amazing how we're seeing just such a huge change and shift in how people buy.
This is amazing. Like at first Toys R Us, now Sears.
Yeah.
That's. I remember. Oh gosh, this is. I want to say this is the 90s. Do you remember Montgomery Ward?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, do you remember? I remember when that closed up shop, and it was, was that like the leading indicator for us at what was to come? I mean, because that was, really pre, internet, Amazon, all that kind of stuff. But it was one of those kind of a Sears type of stores that was it was a fixture. Everybody knew, go get a washer dryer from Montgomery Ward. Yeah,
times have certainly changed. In fact, CEO of Sears was just talking in a recent interview. He says, we're not liquidating just to liquidate. We're liquidating to get capital put into our pension plan, as opposed to erring on the side of this store might work. If it's not working, we've invested the time, and so we've got to close it because we're now jeopardizing the store here. But here's the deal. About a year ago, at the end of first quarter, they operated, Sears and Kmart together, operated 894 stores. Now they have 381 fewer. They are closing stores faster than they're.
I think there's a whole different business model that people have to embrace. It's like, going to, the mall is just not the traditional thing. Like there's people Target's, lining up with, better brands. So's Walmart and clothing and stuff like that. So,
sure.
So people are starting to do their kind of generic all-in-need shopping, and then they go online. And then there's like the specialty shops people go to, which is why all these little Strip malls are popping up. People want lower rents, smaller space, and hey, we'll order something that's just what you want, and you'll have it here shortly. I think the Sears concept, they need to embrace what their strengths are. Like, the Sears here locally in New Hampshire, in Concord area, I mean, they have auto. They have tools. I mean, they have the washer and dryer space and things like that. I mean, those kinds of things, like they need to figure out where their client base comes from and then expand the store in that region and become a specialty.
So have you ever read a book called The Millionaire Next Door?
Yes.
Yeah. So some of the data that's interesting about, the surprise, the person living next to you is a millionaire is kind of the idea there is like this.
I never knew it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're frugal, and one of the things that they explore is like, well, where do millionaires shop? And guess what? They get their suits from Sears.
Yeah,
people.
Yeah, no Neiman Marcus here.
They're never going to spend more than like $250, $300 on a suit. And so, anyways, I'm just wondering where all of our millionaires going to shop next. So that's a bummer.
Okay, story number 2. Hey, so I don't know.
Did you find this story when you were dragged off the plane?
I did not.
That video?
No,
that was screaming, wasn't it?
That was a couple of years ago, Ben. Let's not bring that up for all our listeners. Hey, so you guys travel on a fairly regular basis, right?
Hey, wait, hold on. Have you seen those videos where these people are getting like literally removed physically?
It's hard to even imagine how bad it's getting.
But
they say it's getting better. Everyone says, "Oh, the airline travel is better than ever." But I feel like I'm always maybe there's more phones out recording these things. No, it's unbelievable how it goes on. They just had one a week or so ago where they're getting in some big, huge altercation of punching each other and just ridiculous.
I'm like,
what is going on?
Can you imagine if you were on one of these planes? Thinking, I saw one where the lady was like holding on to the seat. They had her physically, horizontal, pulling on her, and I'm thinking to myself, this is crazy.
No. So that's like a related story, Ben. But this is actually a little bit different here. What we're going here with this is talking about actually making money or figuring out how to do well getting bumped. Now, Ben, I know you love traveling. Ben's traveled a lot in the past. He doesn't travel as much these days. But Ben, do you just love getting on an airline? You just love it. It's great for your back. Good for the sciatica. It's just good.
John, you've traveled with me through some really bad experiences.
I've had to carry Ben's bags for him before. I don't know if he really had a problem with his back or not. Maybe he just didn't want to carry his bags. I'm kind of thinking that's what it was.
I think we have to travel soon, John. My back is starting to get right now.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. So make sure when you pack next time, Ben, don't bring the steamer trunk with you because I get tired of lugging that around the airport. No, but really, so you can actually do pretty well getting bumped. Now, Seth, have you ever gotten bumped before and gotten some cash?
Tell
me,
not
yes,
in the way
Seth.
that the article's describing. Not in this way. I had some things changed on me last minute and had to spend another night in Minneapolis where they tried to put me up in a red roof.
Yeah.
In a part of town that was not so savory. That was my consolation prize.
So, Ben, any good story for you getting bumped?
No, I never
hear good stories about you when it comes to traveling. Just to let you know.
To be honest, I don't really have any, but I have not been bumped. I have almost been bumped.
You've never been bumped?
I've never
You've never volunteered to get bumped?
No, because I always want to get home. I can't stand
my
traveling.
gosh. Okay, so the last time we were traveling, we were going somewhere.
I know you volunteer to be bumped as much as you
let me
possibly
just tell you
can,
what.
John. Stay away from
I've
the family. That's what I heard.
I've gotten $2,500 in vouchers to get bumped, and that's totally fine with me. I don't know. I like the free travel. It works out pretty well. So this article here is from the AP in June, but Allison Price became a hero to airline passengers this spring when she scored a $10,000 travel voucher for losing your seat on an oversold flight. I thought I was doing really good getting $2,500 for my family of 5. She got $10,000 alone. It says, negotiating skill mixed with a bit of luck helped Price land the elusive payoff. With the peak summer travel season right around the corner, other passengers can learn from Price's example if they wind up on an overcrowded flight. 2 situations that passengers might find themselves in, and in their rights, and bargaining power vary greatly between them. So she just was able to negotiate and say, hey, I want to get on this plane. I bought a ticket, and no one else would volunteer. And so they kept on coming back, and she finally settled for $10,000. That's pretty darn good. That's like winning the lottery.
I've always said to myself, if I could get on a plane that was like, well, it didn't matter what time I was getting home, if it was the next morning because I was going to arrive at midnight and it wouldn't affect my family, and I was like, I'd always be willing to do it. But it's just never happened.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
But 10 grand, I should definitely look for more opportunities.
Yeah. Might be more profitable than going to work. I don't know. Just getting bumped. Just go from place to place getting bumped.
I like the ideas in this article, though, that they talk about, what to take and what not to take. They were like, if you're getting $400 for a domestic flight or $800 for an international flight,
starting point.
It's a good starting point. But anything less than those numbers is not even, and that's not even counting the voucher. That's just the cash, right?
Wow.
Or is that the voucher before the cash?
That's the voucher.
That's the voucher. Then the cash should be what? They said $1,350 in compensation for at least 1 hour delay.
Wow.
So I'm curious, how does this even happen anymore? Because anytime I go book a flight, it's like, you're picking the seat, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, they just oversell it. So they don't want to have empty seats, and so they're overselling these deals. And they know that maybe some people won't show up for them. They might have 5 or 6 passengers that don't show up because they missed a connection or whatever it may be. So they know they're overselling. And then all of a sudden, the problem is when everyone shows up.
So do they have like a generic seat that they're selling? Like it's like it doesn't have a designation or an assignment? Because every time I go book a flight, I'm actually selecting this seat that we're going to be
You ever
flying
gotten a ticket that says you don't have a seat number yet? Like
I think I have done it. Yeah,
I've gotten one of those.
Yeah,
Continental used to do the cattle call, right, where it's like kind of first come first serve. You get a number
to fight to get on the board
at the gate, and it was a very general boarding process. Basically, it was that was their whole booking scheme. But no, I've never booked a flight lately that did not have a seat designated immediately.
Well, here's what it says. It says here in the article, airlines can legally oversell flights, although some, like JetBlue, say they don't, on the assumption that some people won't show up. Overbooking can also occur when bad weather or a mechanical breakdown causes flights to be canceled, forcing the airline to scramble to accommodate stranded passengers. It says this, sometimes airlines switch a flight to a smaller plane with fewer seats. I feel like I've been on one of those before. Occasionally, they need to make room for an air marshal or employees. Hey, all I can say is I'm glad we have air marshals still flying the skies after what you were talking about, Ben, originally. It says airlines may cancel flights or limit seating on smaller planes in hot weather because the thinner air makes it harder to generate enough lift for takeoff. That's a comforting fact as we think about taking off on summer flights. So anyways, yeah, it might be a way to make some money out there, or maybe
I think this is really valuable because I think there's so many. I heard that airline travel is going to increase by 9 million this summer or year or something like that. I don't even know.
Wow.
It was some enormous number. And, for people that everyone seems to fly for the most part these days at some point or another, this is valuable information. This is a great article.
Yeah, and what's funny with people traveling more and more? Of course, I've been reading about different airlines that are they're actually building more planes and there are more plane orders, and the economy is very, very strong. It's amazing too, though, because as we look at the price of fuel rising, and we look at a lot of these articles where we're talking about the fuel on these jetliners, the costs are going up too to fly. So it's not cheap to do that. So if you can figure out a way to fly cheaper, maybe this is a good way. Get bumped on your next flight. And volunteer to go. That's what we do. In fact, if we have the time to do it, we know that we don't have to be back in the morning or whatever it may be. I'll go to them and say, hey, listen, we got 5 passengers that are willing to get bumped. And that's what happened to us when we got actually a really decent deal, which caused us to be able to go on a whole nother vacation because of that.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's 4 points here I think that are interesting. That good takeaways. It says when you do get bumped, right? It says insist on a confirmed seat, not a standby seat on the next available flight. In addition to the voucher for future travel. I thought that was an interesting point because they usually push you to standby.
yes, yep.
And then if you'll be stuck for an extended time, ask for a meal and a hotel
And
voucher.
those are given. I mean, those are.
The hotel is pretty common, but the meal.
Yeah, I'd definitely say that.
Not the
for
red,
sure.
not the Red Roof Inn, folks.
Yeah.
Well, if you're in Minneapolis,
and
not
then
there.
The travel voucher expiration is important to ask about.
They expire the next day, so you better be fast in booking that.
And whether they can be combined with discounts. That's another thing to be, heads up about. And then the last one I thought was interesting. Find out if it can be used with other airlines. Now, regarding the partner airlines, because United and Southwest, certificates cannot be used.
Right.
But, it's like you book some of these flights and you're like, you go on all these different places. It's like you book the flight and it's like, oh, they don't fly there or they don't fly here or whatever. And you're like, well, what do I do with this voucher? Because they count on most of these vouchers expiring.
Right, absolutely. It's kind of like buying gift cards. There's a lot of expiring gift cards out there for sure. And so the company knows, they can buy, people can buy gift cards all day long, but people lose them. They forget to cash them in. They have them sitting in a drawer forever. And it's kind of the same way with airline voucher tickets, I'm sure.
I just found this gift certificate the other day.
What do you got there, Ben? What do you got?
It's a gift certificate from 2009 for me to go play golf.
09. Oh, is that golf course still around?
2009, I think somewhere.
Oh.
I just found it the
Well,
other
a round
day.
of golf might have only cost $25 back then.
Yeah, I think it was $50. $50 for two people.
You've been listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com.
Hi, my name is Ben Brayshaw, one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. If you have questions when it comes to your retirement and are looking for a personalized solution, contact us at Brayshaw Financial Group. In today's volatile stock market, we can help you plan to find your successful retirement solution. Am I saving enough? Am I saving into the right places? Do my investments match my appetite for risk? Do I have a tax strategy that is going to help me keep more of what I earn? How can I maximize my Social Security income? If you are like most people, you are getting closer and closer to your retirement and may be wondering if you're taking the right steps. If you're in retirement, you may be wondering, am I maximizing my income while preserving my estate and caring for my family? We talk about all things financial in what we call three-dimensional investing, putting a plan around your financial future. If you feel that now is the time to start getting the answers to some of these questions for your own situation, give us a call at Brayshaw Financial Group at 855-226-8551. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, we have offices throughout New England and across the country. We would love the opportunity to show you how we can help. There's absolutely no cost or obligation just to meet with us, and we welcome you to our office. Call us at 855-226-8551.
More Money on Tap in just a moment. On this edition of our Money on Tap Cliff Notes, John Ryder shares one of the more unusual questions posed to him by a client about an insurance policy.
The most bizarre question that I have ever gotten was from an assigned client, and this guy had a life insurance policy through the company in which I work. This was not a policy, again, that I had sold him, but he said he wanted to know what the suicide clause was on the policy. I didn't know the client, but it was kind of unsettling. I was kind of like, that's kind of weird. He didn't really want to chit-chat at all. He didn't want to really talk much, but he just asked me politely what it was. Now, if people don't know this, there's typically a 2-year clause in the policy, which basically means if you attempt to take your life in the first 2 years of the policy doesn't even pay out, but it will only pay the premium back that was paid in the policy. So I don't remember what my exact conversation with him was, but in looking up his policy, he had it for a number of years and it would have paid out. So I think I said something to him about it, but there may be other solutions for him to consider is kind of what I was saying. To my knowledge, there's never a death claim on the policy, but it was really a pretty unusual question.
Thanks for joining us for this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, with great tips from the pros in three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. Now here's more Money on Tap with Seth, Ben, and John.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. You can also find us at Facebook /3D Investing or any of the podcast venues out there and grab any of the past tracks that we've released. Today's hit title of our show is 9 money management mistakes you're probably making right now. And as we earlier discovered, John actually was writing this show in an attempt to educate Ben and I how to better manage our finances. Was that true?
All of it came to me instantly from my past experience, and I could write it very quickly because of that. Absolutely. Yeah, so we're going to get started talking about, there's a lot of different things that we see when people are coming into our office. And really, if you think about the combined experience we've had, we've been doing this for a long time and talking with a lot of people over the years. One of the most common things that I see, and this is the actual number one common money management mistakes that we see, is that many people out there, when we're talking with them about their situation, about their cash flow and all that, one of the questions we always ask up front is, are you getting a refund every year? Are you paying in, or are you about even within 5% of your income? And sometimes people will look at us very proudly and go, "Oh, I'm definitely getting a big refund this year," which is terrific because, and then they'll maybe tell us why they're going to be getting a refund.
Fund,
yeah,
or we're going to get a new car. something crazy.
Yeah, so really, as soon as I hear that, right away, that tells me, if they're getting a large refund, it means that they're basically over withholding throughout the year when it comes to their taxes. They're sending Uncle Sam that money. Uncle Sam's using that money for a lot of good purposes, I am sure. But the fact is, this is money that could be in our clients' pockets, but it's not.
I mean, if you stuck it in the bank at the horrible interest rates that exist right now, it'd be better in your pocket.
But not only that, I'm not even talking about a better interest rate, but just the fact that you have it available, because once you kick it off to the IRS, well, that's money you don't have in your pocket. And if you need that extra $5 or $6 grand that you've saved in the bank because you're not over withholding, that's money that you have available in the event of an emergency or an opportunity. And so often when people come in, it almost seems like, and I don't know why this is, it almost seems like sometimes like a badge of pride. Oh, I'm going to get a big refund this year. But I don't think they've really thought about that case. And then we educate them, and then it's like, oh, okay, so maybe
I've been
I
holding
need
my money interest free for all this time.
Yeah, so it's really important in that case, really, to have them, those folks, adjust their W-4, because you really don't want to be sending more money than you have to the federal government every year. That is for sure.
Yeah, and if you're realizing that that's the case, and you work for somebody, go into the HR office, ask for a W-4, refill it out, and and
then you're on your way.
Increase your exemptions.
Now, I will say this. We do talk with some people that are just terrible, terrible savers, and they just don't save. And there's only one way in which they save. And I'm thinking of a client that we were recently dealing with, Ben, and he was just like, "Hey, the refund's pretty nice. I like having it because then I'm able to take care of this and that." And you know what? And that is kind of a forced tax saving. Is it the best thing to do from a financial standpoint? Absolutely not. However, if it does allow you to have a forced savings account, and that's the only way you can save, well, that's probably not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I just double that as well. There's a lot of folks that use those refunds for kind of getting the credit card debt taken care of, or and they understand what the principle is here is that the government's holding the money, using it, and it could be theirs, and they could retain it and be using it in a savings mode. But it can be really hard sometimes for people to do that. I mean, it's a discipline to save money, but money out of sight, out of mind is kind of their better plan with that. So here's one that I thought was really good for us, is having only a rough idea in your head of where your money goes. And I think this ties back into last week's show of the financial inventory and how critical that is, and really understanding what's going on with the money, because there's so many ways that we can accumulate and pick up additional expenses along the way. The $5, John, you used the illustration of the fax service that was $5. Now it's turned into $35, and it's like, well, or the insurance of property and casualty insurance can do that to us as well. It's just kind of all of a sudden we turn around. It's like, wait a second, how did my $150 a month turn into $300 a month?
You shouldn't have got a trampoline, Seth.
Yeah, and it was on auto pay, and I oh my gosh, cell phone bills are one of those that can do that. But just really understanding how much you're spending instead of just having the rough idea of it can really put some purpose around the financial picture. And
Seth,
it's one of the things that we want to do.
I think that's a great point, because I think a lot of us here know, at least we know what our biggest bills are, okay? So our biggest bill may be our mortgage. It could be a second house. It could be a car that we have. But we know that maybe the top 5 or 6 bills. But after that, we sometimes really kind of lose track. And I will tell you, I feel like, and I don't know why, if I'm at the stage of life where it seems like those bills, the $200 and $300 bills, seem like they're really adding up, whether it be the dental insurance or this or that. It just seems like there's so many different things. My daughter's in braces right now, so there's another bill right there, and then the dental on top of that, and then the health insurance, and then this. And just so many different things that add up. And, if you don't have a clear handle on where the money is going, boy, it can go out fast. And you certainly don't want it going out faster than it's coming in. That's for sure.
Yeah, one of the tools that I like that we use every day is the client portal. And it's just a great tool to aggregate, basically bring in not only, the investment accounts that we manage, but also, the bank accounts and the typical spending accounts, any of these places that we're using our money, credit cards, we can port them into a central location and see and articulate the spending in a way that really really makes sense. And usually, I mean, it takes days out of a project that, I mean, if you're to do this manually, if you're to sometimes go from one institution to another and try to gather the information ourselves and really understanding the patterns and the habits that we have is in our spending, that could be it can take days out of that project and really turn it into a matter of like a 15-minute sit down session and really nail down what are the specifics, and people immediately pull out the information that they need to focus or they want to focus on to modify the behavior that they feel is going to be the most effective for them. You know, the Starbucks, 3 times a day, 3 times an hour habit that we can accumulate. It can easily be modified, right?
Seth, I just had a client retire, and what he found really helpful about this, he's very good with the spreadsheets and all that, but what he found this was very helpful for, and actually going through the exercise of doing this, was to bring his spouse along, because the spouse, she just is more of a shopper. And he was just saying, hey, we are retired now, so we have to be very careful about, we're not going to get the bonuses anymore, so we have to be very careful about where the money's going. And she was just not very interested in sitting down. However, when it came down just to the client portal and being able just to look at it, being able to say, hey, you know what? I get it now. I get it because I'm seeing the numbers coming in and the numbers going out.
I had an experience just the other day with the client that was doing the spreadsheet in the head, like actually, turns and looks, and I could see that the spreadsheet all of a sudden was in the head going through, and their spouse, I felt sorry for her. She was just like, oh, he's doing the spreadsheet in the head thing. I was like, oh, well, thanks for including me. And this is, can really highlight and bring, like you said, John, just bring to the table and make it easy for everybody to grab the information and make it their own. I think owning the information on ourselves is really a great thing.
I think Seth, you bring up a good point, because there is a consistent level of disparity between a husband and wife usually in how the money's handled and managed and so forth. And for someone, they can do the spreadsheet in the head, and most people cannot. And that's the hard part. It's just basically for someone to regulate. They forget how much they spent this month, this week, that year. It's not something that they're calculating or tabulating. So it's really hard to accomplish that. So I think that's one of the things where, in this domain is to try to bring it into a system like our client portal or Mint or one of these different third-party or Excel spreadsheet that's physically, on the computer, so people can work together through it.
So forgetting the non-monthly expenses, the third thing we'd like to highlight is, some of the largest sources, credit card debt are really holidays and vacations. Let's face it, folks. They're the big ticket items most of the time on our annual list. You can easily turn those into a monthly expense really by taking a look at the whole and divide that amount that you would spend by 12. So that's really putting that as a line item in the budget. And then you can just have those monthly amounts automatically set aside each month, and the money will be there when you need it. So really trying to build in some of these things that we know are coming. We know we're going to take the vacation in August. Why isn't it on?
Yeah, why isn't it on the radar screen? Yeah,
head?
I used to work with a credit union, and they had something. I think it's probably fairly common across credit unions and banks, but it was just something called a Christmas club. And so basically what would happen is that you'd have debited from your checking account to your Christmas club savings account the amount that you're going to spend. So if it was $100, if you're going to spend $1,200 in gifts for everyone throughout the year, then what you'd do is you'd save $100 a month, and then come December, the money's there. And it's just a way of budgeting and just a way of making sure that the money's there, and you're not just going out and spending credit card debt. Because we all know, the biggest months for spending for credit cards, if you take a look at them, are really November and December. They're just huge months because everyone's thinking about how I'm going to take care of everyone. And hey, they're buying gifts for me, so I got to buy gifts for them, and that kind of thing. And so January, like the January statement, can be a disaster for people. And then what they do is they spend time over the next 5 to 6 months or maybe more paying off that credit card debt. So if you can really get ahead of that and not forget about those expenses that you don't always see on your radar screen, think about those things that actually cause you to put the money on the credit card. Pretty important.
Don't think of it as the tax refund's going to cover the Christmas and the vacation.
If you adjust your W-4, correct. Yes, for sure. All right, number 4, I think is pretty interesting. I think this is something that I think we all could relate to, not just me here, not just me, but spending more than you really need to. And I think there's a lot of folks out there, and I would say probably some of us here at the microphone as well, that it's easy to go out and spend more than you need to for different things. Now, Seth, you made a comment earlier. You were talking about the millionaire next door. And these guys, even though they have $1 million+ dollars, they're being frugal with the way in which they spend their money. And I will say, I think that's very accurate, because if I think about the millionaires that I know, most of the ones that I know are typically fairly frugal. They're not necessarily going out and buying new cars. They're not flying first class. They're being very, very careful about the way in which they spend their money. I mean, I think they've been that way for years and years and years. And so rather than trying to look like everyone else out there and trying to look like they have everything, they're being very frugal with the way in which they accumulate, and also very frugal about the way in which they spend.
I have clients that, they're very well off. I mean, extremely well off, and they shop and always have shopped at Goodwill stores.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't care. They're just not, those aren't things that they, want to spend money on.
Yeah, and there's so many different ways that you can really trim fat out of a budget. The cell phone plan, for instance. I mean, every 6 months or so, maybe take a look at that year, 2 years. Is it really the unlimited plan? Is that the one that's doing the best? Is the iPad that you've had sitting over on the counter with an unlimited plan really? I mean, was that necessary? I mean, those can be just things that are incidental. And I think the thing that I think everybody has the tendency to do is to try to keep up with the Joneses. But I think that trying to adjust that mindset can be one of the biggest challenges, really, is the need versus want. And is this really something that's accomplishing more of the status symbol, or is this something that's really, meeting the needs of what our home is needing, and differentiating those?
One area that I really comes to mind for me, because it's something that I was able to actually save some money on here not too long ago, was actually going through and looking at my homeowners and realizing what I had. And I found out I'd been with this one insurance company for years and years and years and years. And I always thought it was the best deal out there. In fact, I think it was at the time. But over time, things change, and different vehicles and different house and all this kind of stuff. And as I look back and I was able to comparison shop, I was able to save a lot on a monthly basis just by switching insurance. And actually, I was believe it or not, able to increase my coverage a little bit, even though the price went down for me. And so just doing comparison shopping sometimes on those kind of things can make a big deal. That's
not a typical relationship. You're paying less and your coverage goes up.
No, it's not typical.
But that is a savvy consumer. That is what happens.
Thank you, Seth.
When you, good for you.
Yes, yeah. And
I got a guy.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes too, even going through,
I have a guy.
Yeah,
I gave you that guy. I'll take credit for that.
Sometimes too, though, guys, when you're looking at your mortgage. And, you think, wow, probably everyone in the world is refinanced. But you know what? There are those people out there that have not refinanced, and they can save some serious money when it comes to their mortgage. And, especially if you're listening to this right now in a rising interest rate environment as we're in right now. Now, if you haven't done it, it's a great time to see if you can save a couple $100 a month on your mortgage just by refinancing that.
I got to say that we've had people come in and we have helped them where they were unable to, or, were told they were unable to refinance because of various things and circumstances and being underwater and so forth. And we've helped them get there. We've helped them, do some discovery on that. And it's been life-changing for some of those people.
Yeah, Ben, I remember a case you were working on, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago. And the case that you're working on provided a tremendous amount of savings on a monthly basis in the hundreds of dollars.
It was actually over $2,000 a month.
Wow.
They hadn't been able to refinance their mortgage, forever throughout the entire span.
And they would if they could, they just couldn't. But then they figured it out.
It was almost a 7% mortgage.
Yeah, wow.
It was horrible. And so when they were able to redo that and everything else, it was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, it's tremendous.
I'm laughing because 7% mortgage is like, if you talk to anybody that's been in the mortgage industry for any period of time, that's a pretty darn good rate in comparison historically. So, folks, we're still in a great rate environment historically, but it is going up.
It was like 6 something, but I mean, it was a high 6, and it was. But when you cut it down to, 3.5, and we extended the terms.
Wow.
They were trying to pay it off earlier and stuff like that. We extended the terms, dropped the rate, and I was like, you still could pay the same money and get it off in you pay the same money, get it off in fewer years, even with a refinance. But let's do this. Let's save the money. Let's get yourselves financially squared away. And we did that for a while. And, so there's a lot of things you can do. I think what happens is a lot of people don't see the creativity that sometimes can be found.
Yeah, one thing I just want to add to that too. I have a friend of mine recently who became self-employed. He's actually laid off from a hospital. He'd been there for years and years and years, and he was paying close to $2,000 a month in Blue Cross Blue Shield premiums. And he was able to reconfigure his health insurance. And actually, he went with a group called MediShare, which is a wonderful group. I'm part of one called Samaritan's Ministries, which is excellent too. But basically, he was able to save $1,500 a month with basically no deductible
with that share program.
With that share program, and it's just been If you guys want to call us about that, let me tell you, we have had some awesome opportunities there for people to save some tremendous amounts of money when it comes to their health insurance.
Yeah, but that's kind of a compliance thing. Is that's not health insurance?
It's not health insurance. It's a health sharing ministry, which is actually it was actually back when you had to have health insurance, you were able to through the tax system, you were able to use this.
Qualified,
yeah. So it worked out very, very well.
If you're listening to Money on Tap, you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. Hi, my name is Seth Crustman, partner with Brayshaw Financial Group and one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. One of the biggest concerns and largest expenses people face today is taxes. Without thoughtful planning, taxes can destroy future retirement dollars, eliminating the possibility of a timely retirement or dreams of what you want retirement to look like. If you're like most people, you're getting closer and closer to retirement, and you may be wondering if you're taking the right steps. Will my income be enough? Will rising taxes force me to give up my dreams? How does inflation factor into all of this? These are real concerns, and you're not alone. Putting a plan around your financial future is what we do. If you have questions when it comes to your financial security, and if you're looking for a personalized solution, contact us at Brayshaw Financial Group, 855-226-8551. It's time for you to start getting answers to your questions. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, Brayshaw Financial has offices across the country. We'd love the opportunity to show you how we can help. There's absolutely no cost or obligation to meet with us. Call us at 855-226-8551. 855-226-8551.
More Money on Tap in just a moment. On this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, John, Seth, and Ben take a sobering look at the future of our Social Security benefits.
Listen to this. In 1940, the year that first Social Security monthly benefit check was written, a 65-year-old male had a life expectancy of 12.7 years. A female of the same age could expect to live until 79.7, an additional 14.7 years. According to a 2009 periodic life table for the Social Security population, the life expectancy of a 65-year-old male has risen to 17.5 years, almost 5 years longer than in 1940. The life expectancy of a female at age 65 is now 20 years, an increase of 5.5 years. So we have people that are living longer and longer because of advances in medication, perhaps healthy lifestyles, that type of thing. And that is causing people to be taking more out of the system than they ever imagined would happen. And they haven't really changed those numbers. And so that's one of the major issues.
What we have is the population's moving behind the Gen Xers and the baby boomers, the millennials, who define approximately 21 to age 37. So they surpass the baby boomers of a population of 74.9 million. So they've just recently surpassed at 75.4 million. So that's not a huge number moving past them, but they have surpassed that number. Now, it's an increasing number with immigration. So what the projection is here is at 2036, that's basically when they're saying they're going to run out of money.
Reduction of benefits,
yeah. So at 2036, they're scheduled to be at about 81.1 million. And at that point, the oldest millennial is going to be around 56. So prime earning years, larger population. Why doesn't that balance the scale?
All these estimates about when Social Security is going to run out of money is taking into account the foreshadowing of what population growth is going to be. Now, if we are missing a certain amount of people coming into the country or a number of different variables that could be skewing the number, we're still on a downward spiral. I mean, we're basically less than 20 years away from Social Security running out of money. And in the next 20 years, we have like 80, 90 million people going to retire to collect Social Security. We mean more than are retired now, I think. I mean, the factors are in there to evaluate that it's failed.
Thanks for joining us for this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, with great tips from the pros in three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. Now here's more Money on Tap with Seth, Ben, and John.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. You can also find us at Facebook /3D investing. And we are talking today about a sensational headline here, 9 ways that you might be making mistakes with your money today, folks. And we kind of stumbled into this because John wrote this apparently for Ben and myself to get us back on track.
And it wasn't titled 9 mistakes you might be making. I said 9 mistakes you're probably making. So yeah. So let's get to number 5. And you know what? This is one that we see. It's quite common, and this is. Some of them are easier to adjust than others. Like, for instance, the first one we talked about adjusting your withholding so you're not getting a big tax refund. Well, number 5 is living paycheck to paycheck. And, it sounds really easy. Well, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, well, just stop living paycheck to paycheck. Don't do it that way anymore. That sounds really easy. But in reality, for many people with the situations that they find themselves in, the living paycheck to paycheck has kind of just become a way of life for them. And so one of the things that we really encourage people to do on a regular basis is see if somehow, if you can't save $50 a month, well, can you save $25 a month? If you can't save $25 a month, where can you cut back so that you can? And so just having some cash built up in an account makes a lot of sense, because you don't want to have your mortgage bill due the same day or the day after that you get your paycheck. And we find that many people have really a situation where they find that at the end of the month, they still have bills that they have to pay, and they don't have any more income coming in. So really what we're looking to help people do is to really switch that around so at the end of the month, they have leftover, and that kind of builds for the next month. And that paycheck to paycheck mentality can be very easy to get used to, but it's very hard to trade out.
Some people, one thing I worked with somebody, they could afford to live within their means, but they weren't, because they would say, oh, I've still got money left in the account and so forth.
Might as well use it.
Like, oh, I could do this or I could do that or whatever. Oh, I didn't have as many bills as I expected this month. And, just setting up an automatic savings plan, just starting off like $25 or $50 a month, just coming out. Capital One is a scenario that we've used. ING used to have one, and so forth. Or just we've done it with brokerage accounts, because brokerage accounts, you move the money in, it's easy and quick, but it's a week or two to get the money out usually.
Yeah.
So it delays it, so you don't become dependent on, I got to get that money out unless it's really important. But, doing that and then slowly growing that savings, like they still felt like they were living paycheck to paycheck. They just forgot that they were saving money.
It can be automated too, is the thing. We were talking about earlier, how accruing some of these expenses that are automated can suck money out of our life, basically, and it can happen rather rapidly. But we can still use a principle like auto pay to pay ourselves. Ultimately. And that's what you're talking about, is a transferring, out of your account automatically over to a savings account or a brokerage account to have that set aside. So it's in the background, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And it's take the Starbucks plan, whatever that is, that you've budgeted in your monthly budget, and say, hey, I want to take half of that, and just set it aside.
Well, one client of mine, she said that, when she was first getting her job, she said, the lady said to me, you know what, you should start putting a percentage away into your 401k. And she's like, well, how much do I do? And she's like, well, how much do you make now? And she's like, well, I just got out of college. She's like, well, then put the full percentage that you can in there. And she did that. She's like, well, I'm still always making more money than I was making before. And she learned to live off of that. And that's sometimes easy. And sometimes employers will actually send money to a savings account, directly. They'll do an ACH in 2 locations. That's something to check on.
And you know what? You start small. And I'm just thinking of a client, Ben, that we worked with here in New Hampshire. This client, for years, in fact, he just sent me, this was not too long ago, he sent me a statement on his first savings. He was saving $25 a month. And now he said his wife and they come in for the reviews and they look at each other and they say, we were saving $25 a month, $25 a month. And now they have, and not just because of that $25, but now they have over $1 million saved. And it's just but they can't believe it because they remember those days and what it was like where they only had that much, but they did it and they started. And those funds built upon 25, upon 25, and it kept on going. And then they were able to do more and more and more. And before you know it, they have a huge sum across the board on all these different accounts. But they still look at each other. And that's why after he went home, he sent me a statement and he said, hey, I just want you to see where we started. And it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've started with people. I'm like, listen, one day you're gonna put a little bit of $100 away a month and so forth. The next thing you know, they have $100,000. They've invested it. They've made money. These things they do accrue quickly.
Number 6, paying a little extra on your credit card debt, and this is the snowball effect. Which, if you're a Dave Ramseyite, this is one of the biggest things that he really pushes and advocates, and we love this concept, which is snowballing the debt. Take that high-interest credit card, all right, and pay a little extra on it and pay the minimum on the other one. This is going to build momentum in reducing the debt that you currently owe. Instead of the typical thing is, I think, that people will do, or that we find people do, is they kind of spread it out and they try to
minimums on everything,
all
right?
down simultaneous.
Yeah. You know what Dave Ramsey actually really employs here, maybe a little bit different than we're talking about here, but he also often talks about taking care of the smallest one first. And he's not even talking in terms of interest rate. He's saying, hey, pay off the smallest one and then you have a victory. Pay off the next smallest, the next smallest, the next smallest. Keep on attacking. And that
right.
And that psychologically, it may not be the best thing to do from a dollars and cents standpoint, but from a psychological standpoint, just getting rid of that Capital One bill that comes in for $45 every month, or taking care of that, whatever that other bill may be,
true.
just having that one out and just saying, you know what, wow, here we are on the 21st of the month and I don't have to make a payment to that card because it's gone. And then maybe paying off this one. Now I don't have a payment on the 29th for another payment I have here. And just being able to get rid of those psychologically is a very freeing thing to do.
Yeah. Getting a win is so critical for improving, our emotional state, right? And our self-esteem is really one of those things that we find. It's interesting to talk about debt because debt can almost be a self-esteem factor. Where it's like a shame that can come over the conversation immediately when talking about debt. And so getting a win, like John was talking about, grabbing the smallest one, maybe not the highest interest rate one, but grabbing the one that's manageable and you can just improve the way that we feel about ourselves, the way that you relate to their finances, and building a neural pathway is one of the things we talk about a lot in really in building that momentum towards financial freedom.
Number 7, we're talking about home equity loans. Some people think that taking a home equity loan is the worst thing you can ever do, but you know what? Sometimes it can make sense. Some people, you'll hear people talk and say, well, don't ever bother with the home equity loan. That's really a mistake and blah, blah, blah. But I can tell you this, sometimes it may be a good chance to restructure the debt that you have and to be able to say, here I am stuck with a bunch of credit card debt at 21% or 25%, really usurious rates if you think about it, and maybe being able to restructure that with your local credit union or with your local bank and be able to say, you know what, maybe because my credit has gotten better, maybe I can do a home equity loan, be able to write off some of the interest that I'm paying. That could be a good way to restructure your debt.
And that's the home equity loan would be a deductible interest.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you can't deduct the credit card.
Exactly. So that may be a good thing. Now, there's a danger in that because the danger with taking out a home equity loan is that you can spread that debt out over a long period of time, which may be helpful for a short-term type of thing. However, it can be dangerous too because you're basically refinancing credit card debt you've had for years, and it's going to go on for years unless you get a handle on it.
I also find the danger in that is not actually changing the way that you relate with your finances. If putting the money from the credit card into the home equity loan doesn't mean that you're willing to live within your means, right? And you just go back and continue to rack up finances in the credit card world, it's pointless.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Band-Aid. And that's the thing that people need to be aware of is doing something like this can be smart with their money as long as you're willing to back it up. You got to be willing to back it up. The other thing with the home equity line that I really like a lot is for the rainy day, call it a rainy day fund, or call it I lost my job and I've got to try to figure out.
And
how
I've
to
gone
live
through the
for
cash
6
that I
months.
have. Yeah, I've gone through the cash that I
Right.
have saved. Yeah.
Right. It's not the place to go to support your lifestyle, so to speak. It's the place that you have access to if you've lost your job or you've got a sickness or, some of these catastrophes that happen. And it may be not the best solution, but the thing is that if you have that safety net set up ahead of time and you've thought that out and planned it accordingly, you could potentially, just keep your home and keep the place. You don't have to worry about that today. You can focus on, getting well, getting the physician into a place that's going to be able to perform the surgery to do what you need, or, you can extend the period of time that you can look for the right job for you if you're out of work or something like that.
Seth, what I liked about what you said right there, it may not be the best solution, but here's what it is. It is a solution. And having a solution, having that home equity can be a lifesaver at times. Okay, so number 8, and this is, I think, even speaks to what Ben was talking about earlier. Hey, so I have some money left over at the end of the month. I'm just going to save that money. Well, that's probably not the best way to go about saving money. Hey, if I have some money left over, I'll save. Because you know what's going to happen? 9 times out of 10, or 9 months out of 10 months, you're not necessarily going to have money left over because you're going to find other reasons to spend it. And so just making your savings plan, whatever's left over, is probably not the best thing. Probably the best thing to do is to have that savings start at the beginning of the month. And like we were talking about earlier, having a regular withdrawal from your account that is going to save and actually increasing the amount that you're saving over time.
Number 9, maxing out the 401k. And
what's wrong with that, Ben? Seth, I thought it was great. Maxing out the 401k. Why in the world wouldn't you want to max your 401k out? That's a great thing to do.
Well, I don't know, John. Why don't you tell me?
Well, here's the deal. Here's the deal. A lot of times we do have people coming in. They'll talk about their great refund that they're getting. That was number 1. Also, one of the things that we often hear people say is, "Hey, you know what? I'm maxing out my 401k," and you know what? That's not necessarily a bad thing. But if you think about it, that can be a bad thing. Ben, talk about why that might not be the best strategy for us right now and where we are in our tax climate.
Well, it depends. I mean, it depends on a lot of different moving factors. So this is not advice straight up for any and everybody. But
yeah,
there's a lot of people that are concerned about long-term taxes rising. We've had the short-term kind of pullback in taxes, which is kind of an interesting dynamic. I don't know that lasts for the next 20, 30, 40 years, considering a $20 trillion plus dollar debt.
It's only 20 trillion.
I know,
only
20.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's not 21. Or maybe it is.
That's right.
But I think when you look at your 401k, it's the one place that you're tax trapped. I mean, and I've had clients, and I've said this before on the show, where they say, "Hey, I'm IRA or I'm 401k poor. Like everything I have is in a retirement plan, and every time I pull out money, I got to pay taxes on income on that,
especially below 59.5 too. It's a killer for people to take money out. Yeah,
because you got to pay penalties and so forth. So, I always tell people, I say, listen. What I can tell you is that you got to at least do whatever the company match is, because that would be silly not to do.
Free money coming at you.
That's free money match it every time. So that's the first place to start. And the second place to start is to sit down with someone like us and kind of work through where your tax scenario is going to be. I mean, if you're not going to need a lot to live on, then you're not putting a lot away, then maybe the 401k is the best vehicle. But right now the tax rates are, I think, on the lower end of what they're going to be 20 or 30 years from now. That's just my opinion.
So we've covered a lot of ground today, looking at some of the most common mistakes that we see people making when it comes to their money. And, the good news is that most of these mistakes can be pretty easily corrected, like, adjusting your withholding on your paycheck so you don't have the huge refund. Maybe you're putting that more towards a savings program. That's kind of a no-brainer, and it's fairly easy to do. And on the other hand, maybe figuring out where your money is going every month is not as easy, and maybe takes a little bit of discipline on our part, and not living from paycheck to paycheck. But here it is, folks. We've come up with it for our show today. Hopefully you can take away one thing that will improve your financial position moving forward. I mean, that's really the goal here today at Money on Tap, is to give you some great advice that you can make your own and improve your life, not only today, but moving forward. So you can give us a call at Brayshaw Financial Group at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. It's been a lot of fun today, guys. I can't wait for the next.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.